What's going on, everybody? It's Mario from Highlighted TCG, and I've come to give you guys my double deck tech 4 diagram. This will be the Muzica and Madoka list, and this will be my second to last double deck tech I will be doing for this set. And my last one will be for Uchu. And the reason why these took a little bit longer is because one, I'm kind of going through a bit of a move, so I'm just a little bit more busier. And two, this gave me more time to refine each of these lists. I do believe these decks are very hard to build. I think Diagram as a whole is probably one of the hardest decks to be building because they're the only deck to utilize all three colors like consistently. And so this is kind of just where I ended up. But jumping straight into the deck list here for Muzica, this is kind of where I landed. Like I said, the ratios is probably the hardest thing to do for these decks, and just figuring out like what tech cards you may or may not want to add in. But let's go ahead and talk about the Elrig deck here. So obviously we're running the Muzica level 3. For those of you who don't know what it does, on play you get to salvage any Signy from your drop to your hand, so this can add back Servants. As a once per game to bounce one of your level 1s back to your Elrig deck. And then during your turn, your opponent's center Signy gets minus 2,000 power, so this helps set up a lot of your removal. We are playing the one Madoka float, the Sangha reboot. These are the best level 1 for Muzica. Madoka float, just getting you to draw 3 is really important. This deck does lack a lot of draw power, and so you really do need it. Reboot is your best way to push damage in the early game because of how like tanky board states are going to be in this set. It's a little bit harder to actually push damage in the early game, and so this is how you are able to bypass that. And plus, it gets around some pretty niche things, such as like the Bang to Kappa, which is being seen play in the Nova deck. And then we have Madoka Clap. This is easily Diagram's best card and one of the best assists in the game. This can tap down 3 lanes, and this can almost guarantee you a lot of your games. It's really strong, and especially against something like Harana, this helps you pretty much like secure. Song of Strike is very good. Pay 2 hard removal. This deck doesn't have any access to hard removal, and this is your only way. So pay 2 just to do that is very strong, and then you can be able to prevent damage. And this deck built up a lot of enter very fast, so that's why you're allowed to be able to play both of these. As for the pieces, we are playing Salvage. This is really strong. You can either make your opponent mill 15, forcing that refresh damage, or you can add 3 Signy from your drop to your hand. If you know that you're already going to be able to accomplish the mill, which is something like Phalaris enables, you'll be able to add 3 from the top, which is really strong. Then we're playing the 1 copy of Xenocluster. This is one of the best things that Diagram has going. They don't necessarily need the secondary piece slot to be open. There's nothing that like mandatorily needs to be there. Some people like to play Azor Black Gaia, but for 3 enter, it's a little too costly. And just being able to play Xenocluster for free is like really, really strong. It helps you against enter denial, helps you against all the discard that's happening within this set, and overall, just like a really strong card for this deck because they do just get to play it for free because they don't really need that second piece. Let's go ahead and move on to the deck for the non-triggers. Of playing 3 copies of Green Grass, 3 Imp, 2 Reticle Digger, 3 Fragwretch, 2 Phalaris, 2 Dark Energy, and then 4 Laling. So we are playing the 6 dual color vanillas. This is just a good split for having access to both of your assists for the most part. You're not necessarily using these extra colors for their like anything in the main deck, unless your main deck stuff pays blackout. But you are using these for your assists, so that's why you do need to see them. You can definitely make 4 green gas and then 2 imp just to round out the colors evenly, so you have 6 and 6. But this is just where I kind of landed on with it. It's been working out fairly nicely. Yeah, you can split these however you want. But I do recommend running 6 because these are just what you want to open so that you don't get punished by Romels. Next is the 3 Fragwretch. So Fragwretch is like really awkward because it's only minus 2k, and there's not a lot of things that are 2k in the game. The best target that this hits is Haniel and Romel. But aside that, there's a lot of 3k and above Signy, so the Fragwretch does not work against those, which is pretty unfortunate, but I feel like it's like a necessary evil that you have to play just because you need to be able to have some bite back against decks that do play the 2ks. And so there are quite a bit of them out there with, like I said, with Haniel and Romel. You will see a lot of decks that will end up fielding those. And when you go second, this is pretty much like the card that you want to be able to find. And it's very important, but unfortunately, like I said, it's just very limited in the targets that it actually does hit. And then next we have the 2 Reticle Digger. This is the newest edition out of the new set. There's a couple other cards that can be added, like Ereshkigal, and I think it's AC. But I couldn't find space for them. But Reticle Diggle is a very strong card. The minus 5K is pretty good because it's able to hit the vanillas and other pretty much every level one below in the game. And then the Exceed just helps you remove pretty much any level three, which is pretty necessary. And it just gives you a way to also use your Exceed, which you otherwise don't have a way to use. And so that's why this card is just really good to be able to slot in. And we did cut down on a melody. I would initially be playing four of this, but because this came out, I believe like this five or this 3-2 split is very nice. And then next we're on to Phalaris. So this gives you the access to be able to use Salvage as a Salvage 3. Sometimes when you just go up to level 3, you can just slam down a Phalaris and like 2 1s or like a 2 and a 1. And then just use this as your early game pressure to set up your later Salvage. Phalaris is a very good addition to the deck because once again, you're not using your Harmony for anything. So this doesn't conflict with really anything else in the deck. And once again, it just helps you enable that refresh point and using salvage for other purposes. And yeah, Phalaris is just a really strong card. This deck does really like to keep and sit back on their level 2 assist. They don't like to aggressively grow, so they do sit on 6 limit on turn 3 pretty often. And so Phalaris plays really well into that. Dark Energy, 3 Dark Energies, so card's really strong too. Just pay 1 to give minus 5k, and then when anything's banished by losing their power, you get to enter charge 1. So this is really good because it just lets you refund your enter, and it lets you pop pretty much any level 1 that isn't like a 7k, and pretty much just lets you do it for free. And this plus Ana Mirage like on turn 3 is pretty good because you can any level 3 because it's minus 8 or 13k in total. And overall, yeah, Dark Energy just lets you allow for some the deck definitely likes to do, so they like to stack up their enter pretty high. Next, we're on the 4 Laling. So this says on attack, you can mill yourself 5 or mill your opponent 5, and then you can pay 1 black to give minus 5k to something. And if you have 20 or more cards to drop, you can give it minus 10 instead. This is easily one of the best cards in this deck. This allows you to force a refresh point, and this sets up your late game immensely well. Once you are you more than halfway through your deck, you can slam like 2 of these to be able to get like 1 large unit or 2 smaller units. And minus 10k is just like very, very strong, especially because if you have something like a level 3 in their center, this pretty much kills every level 3 that is in like a 13k. Yeah, easily one of their best cards. Moving on to the triggers, we are playing 4 Ball, 4 Servant, 2 Kiyoshimi, 4 Folklore, 3 Ana Mirage, 4 Melody. So 4 Servant is obvious. We do want to be seeing this as early as possible because we do want to salvage this off Muzica more often than not. We do run 4 balls. This does mill you 3, and there's pretty much no punish to this because there's not a lot of diagram matchups running around because meta is mostly Piranha and Nova favored. What we're mainly playing it for is that pay 2 to give minus 12k. This is really important for this deck. Being able to just give minus 12k to on your turn is really good because it's just hard removes basically anything that's not a 13k body. And you'll definitely always take this form of removal when you can, especially against something like Nova that likes to tank up a board. This just gives you a free removal when they check into this. Next, we're on 4 Folklore. So this is the down 2 Signy, then you draw 1. This card isn't as good as it should be in this format, but it would still Harana running around. Hitting this is just like really strong, ending their whole turn basically. And what's more important is that draw 1 card. This deck, like I said, struggles with a little bit with hand advantage, and hitting this just refill up that hand. Even though it's just 1 card, it's still pretty important. And then we're running 2 Kiyoshimi, so this isn't if this is in the center, it's a 12k. And then when you play, you can reposition your opponent's board however you like. This is really good because it sets up your Muzica effect. And once again, like let's say they have like a level 3 on like their right lane, you can move it to their center and it'll be a 10k, and you can hit it with something like Laling. And Kiyoshimi just plays really well into the deck. It's life burst effect to enter charge 1 and then stop the next attack is a little bit irrelevant, but it can come up sometimes, just giving you a little bit more energy to work with. But overall, we are playing it for those first 2 effects because they're strong. 3 Melody. This is the pay 1 minus 8k, and then you can pretty much vanish a unit with 15k or less. Melody is just kind of like another a card that you kind of have to be playing. This plus like Frag Ratch is can kill a 10k, or this plus Dark Energy can kill like a 13k. Just playing this is like really important too, and its trigger effect is probably one of the best for this deck. And overall, just lets you hit those like thresholds, especially if like they have like a 10k and you like move it to the center or it's already in the center. It'll be an 8k, and this is just like a free pay one pop, which is really nice. And then last but not least, we're playing 3 Ana Mirage. This has Rise, it's a body, and then you could pay 1 to give minus 8k to something. Has the life burst effect to let you summon 1 from drop. That summon effect is very, very good because you can summon something like Dark Energy, La Ling, or any of your other unit removal, and can give you like another lane to protect. But that minus 8k is just really good. The 13k stat line is really good because no Nova deck can actually get over this unless they have hard removal. And the minus 8k, once again, like same thing with Melody, just lets you add up the numbers really well. And same thing as always, if they have like a 10k in center, you can just get a free pop. Yeah, this is where I ended up with my list. I know there's not a lot of new cards from the most recent set, but I'll talk about those in the couple slides over. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about this list in particular. So moving on into the next list. So this is the Midoka Center deck, and let's go ahead and just move straight into the Aura deck. We are running the Madoka Vogue. This is the draw 3, ditch 2 on play, so it's like Graceful Charity. And then whenever your opponent discards a card through your card effect, you get to enter charge 1 or draw 1, and then it has the same effect as all of the diagram Elrigs, where you get to bounce one of your level 1s back into your deck and then be able to replay it again. So this list is also heavily inspired by the one that most recently topped, I believe played by, I think the Discord name is William or Will. And I did take a lot of heavy inspiration from it. I do think his deck list that he got, I believe it was a 4th place, if I remember correctly. I do believe his list was like very strong, but I did change up a couple cards that I personally liked more than he did. But most of this list does take a lot of heavy inspiration from that one. So I wanted to give credit to him. Yeah, so as for the Yalrig deck, we are playing 1 Song of Strike, 1 Song of Aerial. Once again, this is just the best Song of lineups. Song of Aerial is really good, plays around the Capo. Strike is very strong too. Same thing as we talked about in the Muzica deck. We are playing the Muzica Dolphin and Muzica Splits. So Muzica Dolphin is really good, letting you add back 2 different colors. It doesn't have any, we aren't playing like 2 dual colors, but this can have some minor problems with dual colors if you like add if this is in your drop and like a link, you can't add both. But overall, the deck definitely does need the early game hand advantage because it does struggle with the card economy in the early game. Music of Dolphin, yeah, just helps you fix that. There is the other one that gets minus 8k, but I don't think this deck needs double removal. It just needs the hand power because they are playing a little bit more of a slower pace game with this deck. Muzica Splits, this is a pay one, and then you can give minus 10k somewhere. And then has the option to pay a black and 3 colors to give minus 8k somewhere. So honestly, this card isn't that great, but in this format in specific, it's a lot stronger. If this was the last format, I would say that this card was like one of the worst for sure. But in this format in specific, this is a really good card for against Nova specifically. Minus 10k and minus 8k separately can kill Ishikeshi Marus. However, it does not hit any of the level 3s, but when you want to be using this, it's actually quite earlier than most of your assists. And so this plays a little bit more aggressively. And against Nova, yeah, you just want to be a little bit more aggro, and Splits is very good for that because this generally does hit 2 units against Nova specifically in the earlier stages of the game. So as for the Beast deck, we are playing Salvage and Xeno again. Once again, this deck just gets to play for kind of free. There is an option to be able to play Chime of the Blessed Key for Hijikata, but I actually don't think it's as necessary in this deck because you only want to be able to resolve 1 Hijikata on turn 2 now. You don't really need to be that aggressive with resolving 2, and Hijikata plus Gakio gets that resolution out very easily. Gakio is a 1-card enabler for Hijikata, so your turn 2 ends up working out a lot more. And plus, against with Novus running around, you usually can't resolve double Hijikata because they will go like double Ishikara, making your their board state like a lot harder to hit. And Hijikata can't hit over the 12k bodies. But yeah. So moving on into the actual main deck itself, talking about the non-life first effects, we have 3 Heket, 4 Green Gas, 2 La Ling, 4 Hijikata, 3 Osikitsune, and then 4 copies of CRO2. 3 Hecate. This card is amazing, and it's one of my favorite cards in the game. Just being able to check 3 and set up like your draw phase or your main phase draws, even possibly your fills, is very, very good. And having that knowledge is almost about invaluable for this, like especially with all your like looting kind of effects. So Hecate is like really, really strong in this, like, and easily one of like the MVP. Next is the 4 green gas. Once again, we are playing this. We are playing green and black, so this just helps us have that enter, because we are really heavy on the blue. So we do need this to be able to resolve our Otsugitsune like once or twice. And green gas just lets us round out the color combination of the deck, letting us basically run 6 black and then um, 7 green, which lets us resolve these very easily at the low quantities playing these at. And then next is 4 Hijikata. This is one of the strongest cards in this deck. Enabling this on turn 2 to be able to start ripping cards at your opponent's hand is really good. And then on turn 3, you can even go like double of these, which is really good. And this can also just be an enabler for Madoka if you ever need it to be, which is once again just a really good card overall. And yeah, moving on into the Laling. So we are playing only 2 copies. We only need 2 copies because it isn't as important. We aren't playing a lot of black in this deck. But if we were playing like a more black oriented deck, we can even be running something like Dark Energy. But this deck is really good at resolving the minus 10k because you are churning through our deck a lot faster than something like Muzica. So with all the ditch and draw effects, we are getting to that threshold a lot faster. But so yeah, we usually are resolving this as a minus 10k, but even sometimes the minus 5k does come up. But a lot of times too, we are using 5 to be able to set up our salvage. Next is 4 Osagitsune, or I mean 3 is Osagitsune. Next is the Osagitsune. So this card is really, really strong in this deck because we are able to enable it pretty much anytime we want. As long as we have a single card that lets us discard, we can always just intercharge with Madoka and fully enabling this. And this card is really, really good in this format, especially against Nova. That's pretty much why it's so strong, because this pretty much hits everything on Nova's board. Kishimaru's at all of their level 3s. And any of their 10k bodies because we pump it ourselves. And then this also allows us to pump Hijikata, which lets us hit over some of those big bodies too, and let Hijikata resolve. So it's a very common play to be able to like pump Hijikata and pump one of their units, and then pop it with Osagitsune and run over something, which is very strong. Just being able to play this alone is easily one of the best reasons to be playing Madoka, because you do get like this mini discard / remove kind of deck. Yeah, overall, this card is very strong in this format specifically, and in this deck as well. And then for the last card, we are playing the 402. I was actually going to cut down a copy of this, but I do like seeing this card almost every single turn, and being able to use it as just the pay 1 randomly discard is really good. It doesn't really get off its pay 1 pop effect as often as I wanted it to, but it definitely lets you add up the numbers, especially with something like Laling. So you can definitely add the numbers up, but this can also just be like a free removal in some board states as well. But most of the time we are using it to make our opponent randomly discard and enabling our Madoka. And so because this deck grows pretty aggressively, there are definitely times where we are able to field boards like a 0-2 Otsugitsune and like a level 1. Yeah, moving on into the life burst effects, we are playing 4 Servant, 2 Regalicus, 2 Neon Tetra, 4 Godkill, 3 Folklore, 4 Random Drain, and then 1 Waffle Ice. 4 Servant is obvious, 2 Regalicus. I do like that he cut down on these, and I kind of agree, because I do think Regalicus doesn't need to be a 4 of, especially when you have something like Godkill. You only need this, or like these amount of looting effects for Kata. And her life burst effect is good, but not good. Not good enough. It doesn't stop any attacks. And so I do like the 2-2 split on this. Neon Tetra is very good. The freeze actually does come up quite a bit, especially against something like Nova. If you can't remove their Kome, you can just freeze it, and it puts them like in a really awkward position. But we are mainly just playing it for the life burst effect. The freeze does have some synergy with the 1 Waffle Ice, but we're going to talk about that in a couple seconds here. But for Godkill, this is, like I said, main enabler for Hijikata. Lets you help dig through your deck, and it has good synergy with Hecate because you can set up your draws. But the life burst effect is really good, just helping you stop an attack is strong and let you draw a card as well. Three Folklore. So he played four into this initial list, but I took it out for one Waffle Ice because I really do like Waffle Ice in this deck. But three Folklore is good. The 10k stat line is nice, and they can also just end people's turns. I don't really need to explain why this card is so strong, but yeah. And then for Random Drain, this is actually your only way to enable Madoka on your opponent's turn, but it's really funny when you actually do resolve it because it's just free resources. You make your opponent discard one, and then you get to go +1. And other than that, it's just another enabler for discard. This rounds up all of our discard abilities by, I believe, 212, because you are running the 4 random, the 402, and the 4 Hijikata. So this lets you pretty much enable Madoka every single turn after you have already played her. And then the one copy of Waffle Ice. So I really do like this card. And there are more freeze-oriented Madoka builds, but one copy of this is just fine where it is. It has the on-play to freeze too, and then whenever a frozen Signy leaves the field, you can put the top card of your deck underneath this Signy, and then during the start of the attack phase, you can either add one of those cards or put one of them into your enter. This just gives you another source of advantage, and the freeze 2 is pretty relevant against something like Nova 2. And you're always going to pretty much be able to resolve this because you do have a lot of random freeze synergy just sprinkled in, and so playing one copy of this is just a nice benefit to be able to get some more advantage, especially on like your slower turns where you do want to be sitting back. And overall, it's just a nice card. Especially it's a little bit more accessible because you do play something like Muzica Dolphin, so you are able to add it back. Otherwise, I wouldn't be playing any one-ofs usually because I'm not a big fan of them. But because of how this deck works, it is partially accessible to be able to find. So yeah, I'm really a big fan of this card specifically. It's like a one of in this deck, but you can easily take it out for like the other Folklore that the initial list was playing. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for this list. Once again, like I said, heavy inspiration from the list that most recently topped. I do think that player piloted very well, and I do think its deck list was really strong, but I did just change a couple of cards to suit my own list. And so now we're just going to go ahead and look at some possible extras or deck changes you can make to both of these decks. Or the Madoka deck, you can be running the freeze package. There are a lot of heavy freeze focused builds for Madoka. I do think these are a little too slow, and freeze isn't as strong as well because you have to be playing more mono blue. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about the whole mono freeze package in another video, but this is an option you do get to do. I don't think it's the right one for now, but this is a completely decent option to be able to pick, especially in this format with, like I said, this whole freeze package is really good against something like Nova. But I am unsure whether it would be the best for Madoka right now. As for diagrams, so these are a couple cards that you're able to slot in that I couldn't find space for. Gram is really good because it can help you on turn 2 to be able to set up some early game removal and push in more damage early. With the 5k body and me not being able to find the slots for it, I wasn't whether I'd be able to slot it in or not. And so ultimately, I didn't end up putting in any copies. But this is a completely viable card to be running. You can run Ereshkigal. This card is kind of meme, kind of not. Against Nova, because you are playing against a slower game and you aren't going to be taking as much damage, there is a possibility to just be able to sack 2 of your life to like nuke their whole field. Once again, I didn't test it enough, so I wasn't really confident that I could say that to put like a copy of it in the deck. So I didn't end up doing it. Its trigger effect is actually quite nice too, but yeah, once again, it's like a very like meme card, but it actually does have possible potential in this format in specific. And then the last card is the AC. So this lets you salvage one if your opponent grows on your turn, and then you can pay 1 to mill 5 and then summon a black Signy. This card is actually quite nice, giving you some more early game build to possibly send falling it's a little bit earlier. And then if your opponent has a response, you just get to get a free +1, which is really cool. Once again, I just didn't know where to slot this in. This can also just be like another extra copy of all your cards. I do think this is likely to be the card that you can add one of for sure, because it just fundamentally acts as each copy of your black cards. Once again, I just wasn't sure where to slot this in because I did think the deck slots in Muzica specifically are a lot more tighter. So I just didn't slot it in, but it's a completely viable card to add into the deck. But yeah, so that pretty much wraps it up for both of these lists and the cards that you can add in them. Let me know what you guys think about both of these deck lists. I did actually work quite hard on these ones because once again, Diagram is one of my favorite decks to play, but I just don't play it competitively as much because I'm I just go face with Huron as just kind of the way I do. But I do really like Diagram and their mechanic as a whole. They feel really nice to play, um, and it's most of their builds are usually fun, and they definitely all feel unique and different to each other. So that's quite nice. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and just let me know what you guys would change about these lists or how you guys have played them. I definitely would like to take more advice and more notes, just how to possibly upgrade these lists because like I said, this deck is really fun and it's really nice to play. But other than that, I will catch you guys in the next Uchi deck profile. I'll see you guys later.